is 59 laps, the British Grand Prix of 1992. He's go, and Mansell straight on the power. Patrese alongside him, the Italian has again out-dragged Nigel Mansell. He leads into Copse, and Martin Brundle has passed Schumacher, and then the two McLarens, and Martin Brundle has made an absolute flyer, as has Patrese. And Patrese, the Italian in the Williams Renault, is now in second position because Nigel Mansell has exerted his authority and has surged past Patrese, who is now being attacked by Martin Brundle, and Schumacher is being attacked by one of the McLarens. I didn't see whether it was Senna or it's Senna. They're coming down to Stowe Corner now. Mansell leads, Patrese, Brundle, Senna is in fourth position in the McLaren. Berger is going through to fifth past Schumacher, and Alesi has been taken by Johnny Herbert, who started ahead of the Ferrari, lost the position and has regained it. There he is, car 12, the Lotus of Johnny Herbert. Mansell still leads, and there are 58 full fast laps to go at the end of this one.
Yes, and a tremendous first couple of corners, because Senna and Schumacher rejoined their battle that they'd had in Magny-Cours, where Schumacher rather rudely attacked Senna, and Martin Brundle keeping his position over Ayrton Senna, who was attacking as Mansell, already opening up a very large gap. Mansell got a fair bit of wheel spin at the start, but it's all action. And Schumacher taking Berger, Herbert inside Berger. And Berger got jumped then, as he had jumped Schumacher at the end of Hanger Straight, and it is all action behind the two Williamses.
Indeed, and the man to watch is Martin Brundle. He's putting away from Senna, who is just keeping ahead of Schumacher, and in sixth position it's Johnny Herbert. So it's good for Britain. Three British drivers in the top three at the end of lap one, and there is the leader.
And it really is like a 10-lap race, the way they're going at it for third place and behind. But in the meantime, Martin Brundle, who hasn't made a great start, has not been party to the argy-bargy, has got a clear run, has been able to give it everything. Schumacher getting inside Senna. And this is really hairy stuff. Senna not giving way. He must feel a little bit threatened by Schumacher's inexperience, because that's what he felt caused him big trouble in Magny-Cours. But he's not showing any fear of it. And he won't want this attention. He'll want to be chasing Martin Brundle, and Brundle is going fabulously well. As I say, unmolested by the infighting behind, and that always slows the pursuers down. Through Bridge Corner now. And Ayrton Senna, maybe in an uncompetitive car relative to the Williamses now, and even possibly to the Benettons, but he's showing why he's been 3 times world champion. He is not giving up. He gives no quarter.
Nigel Mansell led by 3.2 seconds after the first lap, a quite incredible lead. Here he is, he's piling on the pressure, he's breaking the opposition. 1 minute 26.9 his first lap. Now he leads by 6 seconds. Patrese second, Brundle third, Senna fourth, Schumacher fifth, Herbert sixth. Then it's Berger, Alesi, Kobash and Mika Hakkinen in 10th position in the second Lotus.
Yes, and Martin Brundle lapping 3 seconds a lap slower than Nigel Mansell, and that is exactly confirming the practice and qualifying form and the superiority of the Williams, which has been big all season, is now absolutely enormous here at Silverstone. The circuit really suits the car, or should I say it the other way round, whichever way you want to look at it. And this is the biggest margin we have yet seen between the Williamses and the others. Riccardo Patrese playing very much a subordinate role to Nigel Mansell, but in a comfortable second place as Schumacher continues to harry Ayrton Senna.
And down shortly to complete another lap, because Nigel Mansell, race leader, is through Luffield 2. He's coming into Woodcote now to complete lap 3 in this 59-lap race. There's Mansell just at the bottom of your picture, and look how far back you have to look to see Riccardo Patrese in the second Williams. There is Mansell into Copse Corner at 140 miles an hour and more, accelerating away. Look, you see, he's very soon going to be in a position, he's leading by 8 seconds now, where he can actually back off and control the race. Not yet, but on his second lap, he was only 0.6 of a second outside the lap record, and that's with a full fuel load. And so, Patrese in second position. He's got a gap between himself and Martin Brundle of 1.5 seconds. And here they come. This is Patrese second, Brundle third. Senna is in fourth place. Tucked behind him and attacking is Michael Schumacher in fifth position. In sight is Johnny Herbert.
And Johnny Herbert really confirming his and the Lotus's good form, because he's up there splitting the McLarens. He's ahead of Gerhard Berger. That's Senna going through. Schumacher still chasing, but not actually attacking at the moment, so Senna is able to settle a bit, which he wants to do, because he wants to get rid of those attentions. And behind, you saw Herbert there in the background, behind Schumacher, with Berger following him.
And this is 3 times world champion Ayrton Senna in a McLaren which does not handle as well here at Silverstone as the Williams Renault ahead of it, and it shows, of course, because now on lap 4 Senna is some 10 seconds behind Nigel Mansell and being harried by Michael Schumacher, as Riccardo Patrese, showing no sign of the crash he had yesterday, goes through second. There is Senna fourth, Schumacher fifth, Johnny Herbert in sixth position, Berger in seventh place, and behind Gerhard Berger in eighth position it's the Ferrari of Jean Alesi, followed by the Ligier of Comas and the second Lotus of Mika Hakkinen in 10th place. Senna and Schumacher.
And here, look at the start. Now watch Mansell light those rear tyres up. He got the drop away very well, but he didn't get the grip. That was the extra wheel spin he's got. There's Patrese going down the inside up to Copse Corner, and Patrese makes it first into Copse, and that was a worry that Mansell had. But Mansell, as the others follow through, and there was a bit of fighting there. Senna got the chop from Schumacher. And away they go.
And at the same time, Martin Brundle went ahead of Michael Schumacher, his teammate, to go up into third position, which he is still holding as they go through and complete their fifth lap. Now, Mansell has already done so. Red 5's done 5 laps, and he's on his 6th lap with another 53 to go. Massive lead. 1:26.5 was Mansell's last lap time, and that's only 0.2 outside the lap record. And this is turning into a demonstration drive, an absolutely enormous gap. 11.8 seconds, and one just has to hope that Mansell is not overcooking things.
Well, I was just about to say, and despite that enormous lead, he already seems to have throttled it back, Murray. His lap times are no longer dropping, and the field road's coming down. You would normally expect the lap times to be coming down. Everybody else's down the field are. And Mansell, with a 12-second lead after 5 laps, is already controlling the race and starting to not to relax the ultimate pace and just race to the others. He will, of course, continue to build that lead. He won't slow right down, because that is your insurance against minor problems going wrong, a possible pit stop. He'll want to have, certainly before he really drops it off, to have like 40 seconds, but he will get that easily. He won't push at 100% to achieve that, because he can get it by nursing the car, and that means running some half a second a lap slower than maximum.
Well, let's take a little breath for contemplation, and apart from the dominance of Nigel Mansell thus far, my main impression as we ride with Nigel Mansell, you see his helmet just on the left-hand side. That is Beckett's corner. Now into those 4.5G corners. The right, left, at Beckett's itself. Round Chapel curve. doing about 150 miles an hour down the fastest part of the course. Well, equal fastest. He's doing 190 miles an hour here as he goes into Stowe Corner, whacks it back into fifth gear, round Stowe at 100 miles an hour, swing left into the Vale, a little dip here. Now there's a short climb into another left-hander, second gear, which leads into the third gear, right-hander at Club Corner. From third to fourth to fifth to sixth, almost as quickly as you can say it. Up to Abbey Curve, the left-hander ahead of us at 180 miles an hour. Then he sees in front of him the bridge. There it is, and into Bridge Corner, fifth gear, 160 miles an hour, believe it or not. They look pretty heavy clouds overhead. The left-hander at Priory, second gear. The second left-hander at Brooklands. Now a tiny short straight and into the double right at Luffield, second gear. There's the first one. There's the second one. Now into Woodcote, up through the box, from second to third, to fourth, to fifth, to sixth, and exit Woodcote and into the start and finish straight over the line to complete another lap into Copse at 180 miles an hour.
Yes, and certainly you could see then that Mansell has throttled it back a bit because he wasn't using all the road. He missed his apex, left himself a good margin at Bridge Corner, was a good couple of yards off the apex. And another shot of him sliding through the Beckett's complex there, the car drifting, beautifully balanced. And there's Patrese with leading the pursuers, and Patrese starting to edge away from Brundle, still holding a fine third place. Senna can't catch him, Schumacher following. Johnny Herbert, they're dropping slowly, gently. Herbert now nearly 4 seconds behind Schumacher, but still comfortably holding off Berger and Alesi.
Well, I didn't finish my previous thought when we joined Nigel Mansell on car, so let me do it now. I was going to say my outstanding impression of the race thus far, apart from Mansell's dominance, was how well the Benettons are going. We're watching them now. There's Brundle, there is Senna in the McLaren, that is Schumacher, and the Benettons, very nimble. They are lighter than the multi-cylinder engined cars ahead of them by virtue of the fact that they have the V8 engine. That means to say that they are lighter and they can carry less fuel. The fuel economy is better. They may start going even better during the latter stages of the race. And Michael Schumacher there in fifth position in his first race at Silverstone is wearing away at Ayrton Senna. And Ayrton Senna will himself be very wary because as now, another fastest lap, Nigel Mansell, 1 minute 25.8, and that is half a second, 0.5 of a second, faster than his own previous lap record, 136.2 there compared with 135.3. So Mansell's fastest lap, nearly a mile an hour faster than last year, and we are now on lap 9 out of 59.
And it is clear that Schumacher could go faster if he could only get past Senna, but he is stuck in the hole in the air being made by Senna's car. And by that I mean that when you're following another car, although the hole in the air helps you on the straights and you can go a little bit faster than you can on your own because of the reduced wind resistance, when you get to the corners, the closer you are to the other car, the less grip you have. You saw a little wobble there from Schumacher, and that's a testimony to the lack of grip he has, being not having clean air to work over the wing surfaces and the aerodynamics of the car to push it down onto the road. And that is the perennial problem with passing in Grand Prix racing. The closer you get to the car in front of you, as you get up to try and get into your position to pass, the less grip you have to be able to do it. And you can see very well there that Schumacher is stuck. He needs a mistake from Senna, probably, and Senna knows full well that that's what Schumacher needs, so he'll be making strenuous efforts not to give it to him. And for that, he'll have to drive a little bit carefully and not throw the car into corners, but being in a sandwich is probably the most difficult thing in this business, because although he's not in the ultimate sandwich, and that is where you're trying to pass the car in front, but you've got somebody behind trying to pass you, he is trying to catch Martin Brundle. Brundle going extremely well in third place, made a great start. He got the power down better than anybody else at the front of the grid, got him into third place, into the first corner, and he's looked very comfortable there and very much as if it belongs to him at the moment.
And Martin Brundle has got his confidence back. I was talking to Eddie Jordan, for whom Martin used to drive in Formula 3 earlier on today, and he reminded me that Martin Brundle had beaten Ayrton Senna 9 times in Formula 3 in 1983. Well, he's ahead of him at the moment, and he's showing every sign of staying there. There's Riccardo Patrese, the veteran of Grand Prix racing, in second position, and a man who has formed a wonderful relationship with Frank Williams, who you can see in his wheelchair there, surrounded by the Williams team, looking at the bank of monitors in front of him, and what he's seeing is great news for Frank Williams and for his team. Nigel Mansell leading on lap 9 by over 20 seconds. And ideally a lead driver, and you're looking at the second place man, Riccardo Patrese now, hopes to build eventually, in ideal circumstances, a lead of about 20 seconds. Well, Nigel Mansell's got that and more on lap 11 of a 59-lap race. An amazing performance, underlining the dominance that he's shown all season. As Patrese, fairly comfortable cushion, because he is 3 seconds ahead of Martin Brundle now, who is 1.2 seconds ahead of Ayrton Senna, who has got Michael Schumacher right behind him in 5th position as you watch Riccardo Patrese coming up towards Abbey. Now there's Brundle in the red and white car, Senna in the green and yellow one, the twin of Martin Brundle's Benetton. That is Michael Schumacher pushing Ayrton Senna, and this is an indication of the fact that no matter how wide a circuit is, there is only one fastest line, and Ayrton Senna is on it at the moment, and that, combined with the aerodynamic problems that Michael Schumacher is having, is making it very difficult for the German to attack hard enough.
Yes, indeed, he's got to just about a second away, and they all go through the start-finish line. Mansell's lead now 21 seconds, and he has eased up. Mansell now lapping slower than he has been. 1:27 there, some second and a half, nearly a second and a half slower than his maximum speed. And I don't suppose he's decided yet to stop building. I think that would be unwise. I think it would be wise of Mansell to continue to build that lead and try and get himself some 40 seconds at least. And there is Nigel Mansell. And he will shortly be starting to lap the back markers. Damon Hill in his first Grand Prix qualified in last place, but a magnificent achievement in the underfunded and pretty uncompetitive Brabham car. And currently bringing up the rear guard. Now Mansell through Woodcote corner, now by the pits. We'll see the Williams pit board. That's plus 21.3 with 47 laps to go, and his lap time was in between. And Mansell would get about that amount of time that we had to read it, but he does not expect to read all 3 lines of it on 1 lap. Mansell through the Beckett's complex, and with the pit board, what happens? And now you can see the back markers now in the distance on the hangar straight you saw from Mansell's onboard camera. There is Damon Hill, the car's ahead of him, and on the wide, fast open spaces of Silverstone circuits, Mansell will have no trouble dealing with the back markers with the all-powerful Renault engine to help him. He's in no rush. He won't have to do anything heroic or anything risky at all to get through the back markers. That was Martini leading Damon Hill. And Mansell has throttled back quite considerably. As I say, I think he would be wise to try and build now in the complex. That's the one place he didn't want to catch the slower cars, because it's a little bit follow my leader through this section, and he knows he's in no hurry. If had he got somebody pressing him from right behind him, he maybe would have dived inside the back markers there. Impressed, but no need to take a risk.
So Mansell comes up and laps Damon Hill, who is running last but still running, and that's the important thing. Mansell's next target, as he laps driver after driver, is the likeable Italian Pierluigi Martini in the Dallara Ferrari. And incidentally, the fastest lap that we have so far is still Nigel Mansell's lap 8, 1:25.847, a new lap record. Past Martini on the way to Stowe goes Mansell, and his next target will be Gianni Morbidelli. There it is, the yellow and black Minardi with the Lamborghini engine. So Nigel Mansell has lapped Hill, he has lapped Martini, next one Morbidelli, and he's not had any problems thus far. Now this is an advantage of the wideness of Silverstone, because when you've got a massive steep speed differential like the Williams Renault has between it and the Dallara Ferrari, for instance, and the Minardi Lamborghini, you can just pull over and surge past. You can if you're Nigel Mansell, and he is on lap 14 now, leading Riccardo Patrese by 23 seconds, as near as makes no difference. Into lap 14 completed. Here is Morbidelli.
And Mansell making it really look very easy indeed, which one has to say it is. In that car, the superiority is enormous, and he's not really having much of a challenge from Riccardo Patrese for understandable reasons. He's pretty depressed at the French Grand Prix. Most surprisingly, he got orders from the Williams team to not stand in the way of Mansell's progress, i.e. not to race him, and that seemed strange, to say the least, but of timing, because with both McLarens out of the race already, and Michael Schumacher as their only pursuers starting from the back of the grid, it seemed odd that the racing should be taken out of the World Championship. There is Senna and Ron Dennis, Senna's team manager, in the McLaren pit with their bank of TV monitors and that time printout and all the information about the race. Senna still in fourth place, fending off Schumacher. Now Schumacher has dropped back a little bit for a rest, and he's got a little bit closer there, as you see, to Martin Brundle. And Senna now only 1.5 seconds behind Brundle, so maybe starting to apply gentle pressure. It looks like we could have a battle starting to develop for third place. Behind them, Johnny Herbert has made, although he's fallen back from that battle, he's some 6 seconds or so behind Schumacher. He's made a little bit of clear air between himself and Berger in 7th place. So Herbert holding down 6th place very much on merit, and Alesi still hands Berger, and behind Berger, Alesi rather, the other Lotus of Mika Hakkinen is starting to pressure them. Mika Hakkinen's car going very well today. In fact, when Hakkinen was busy with his rather eventful morning, courtesy of the Buffalo Bill, Herbert had a go in his car and liked it, and was half a second quicker first flying lap than he was in his own. So he was a bit miffed about that, and they were trying to find why Mika's car was so noticeably quicker than Johnny Herbert's, and they've been trying to fix that.
Lap 16, quarter distance, no retirements. Nigel Mansell leads Riccardo Patrese by 22 seconds, and you can see the battle for third, fourth and fifth. Here it is. Brundle third, Senna is fourth, Schumacher is in 5th position, Johnny Herbert is 6th in the Lotus, 7th is Gerhard Berger, 8th is Jean Alesi in the Ferrari, 9th is Mika Hakkinen, 10th is Comas, 11th Alboreto, 12th Capelli, 13th Gasho, 14th De Cesaris, 15th Boutsen, 16th Tarquini, 17th Suzuki, 18th Guiar, and in 19th place, as I'm waiting for them to come through now, behind Guiar, sorry about that, behind Guiar is Suzuki, and behind Suzuki is JJ Leto. Then it's Katayama, Gutermin, Morbidelli, Martini, and 26th is Damon Hill, and Nigel Mansell has lapped everybody up to 22nd position, Ukio Katayama. And he's on lap 17 now. As you look at the battle for third position, Martin Brundle holds it. In the red and white McLaren is Ayrton Senna. That's him, world champion 3 times. record number of pole positions, and Ayrton Senna has 34 wins behind him, and he's also got Michael Schumacher behind him, and not very far behind him. But this is another example of how very difficult it is to pass as Patrese goes through the left-hander. The battle for third. Sixth behind them is Johnny Herbert.
And Senna is beginning to put pressure on Martin Brundle's third place. He's now getting to the critical point where he is in Brundle's slipstream, which will help him on the straights, but will certainly hamper him in the corners. And the car becomes very hard work to drive, because as well as the problem of having less grip, the car slides about more, so you have to fight it more. And it simply has less grip. You also have a problem with sighting, because when you get really close to the car in front, you don't have a clear view of the corners as they come up. And so it's a additional mental as well as physical stress. And he is now, I think, in the zone where it's going to be very difficult to get any closer. He's less than a second behind, or he was as they crossed the line then. And Mansell is really eased right up at the front of the race, taking it very easy now. He's dropped his lap speed by some 3 seconds a lap over what he could be doing. And that's the battle behind. That's Gerhard Berger, Alesi, and Mika Hakkinen. Mika Hakkinen, Johnny Herbert we see through the picture now. That's Johnny Herbert in the leading Lotus in 6th place. Through Stowe Corner. And Lotus really seem to be on a revival. The team has got a new car. They've got two of the most talented young drivers, up-and-coming drivers in the business. Mika Hakkinen, Johnny Herbert we know a lot about. Mika Hakkinen won the Formula 3 championship a couple of years ago in very much the style that Ayrton Senna did. And we've now got the battle of third place amongst the back markers and the traffic, and Senna will be looking for an opportunity here.
I can't see Martin Brundle giving him that opportunity, because Martin Brundle is race-wise, as is Senna. He's been racing just as long as the Brazilian has. We're on lap 19 now, with Nigel Mansell's time having dropped a bit as he passes Thierry Boutsen's Ligier, and the Belgian driver Thierry Boutsen is having a fairly good race for him, because he is in 16th position and he's had some pretty dreadful ones this year. So Mansell's now lapped everybody up to 15th place, and he's about to take Andrea de Cesaris, who has driven in, funnily enough, exactly the same number of Grand Prix as Mansell. They're both in their 174th Grand Prix. Oh, Mansell absolutely slicing his way through the field, and of course he can afford to be circumspect about where and when he passes people. As ever, he is not only in touch with the pits through the visual signals, the pit board, but he is in radio contact, and he will know exactly what the situation is. He will be talking to the pits as he goes past. It seems incredible that you can be driving. Gabriele Tarquini, and he's about to be lapped by Nigel Mansell. Tarquini, who is in the Fondmetal car in 14th position. That's the new Fondmetal with the Ford engine, and it's getting better and better, race by race, designed by Sergio Rinland. And Tarquini has been working very hard at it. His teammate, Andrea Chiesa, is not starting here. Now, here they are. Here is Tarquini in 14th place, about to be gobbled up by Nigel Mansell. You look back down the field and you see that Andrea de Cesaris, who Mansell only passed a little while ago, is also dropping back. Now, watch Mansell. He's with Tarquini.
Mansell just slicing through the traffic with the greatest of ease, and here is the real battle. Now, Ayrton Senna is doing what you'd expect of a really experienced driver. He is homed in on Martin Brundle because they're getting amongst the traffic. And there is Patrese going through in the lead. With the traffic, they've caught up a bit. I think that was Pierluigi Martini he was about to lap. But Senna is getting himself placed, ready to pounce if there's any sort of confusion caused by the traffic and Brundle has any sort that gets delayed at all. Remember, the lead car is the man in the hot seat because he can only lose his place. And Senna trying to get inside Martin Brundle in the infield, and that's looked a little bit optimistic to me. Maybe he thought Martin was a little early on the brakes, and there's traffic ahead. And of course, looking behind, we mustn't forget that Michael Schumacher has closed up, and Senna will be having to use all of his very considerable senses here, because he's got to watch his back as well as his front. So he will be having 360-degree vision and senses all the time at the moment. And he'll be pleased for that little bit of respite. Schumacher having to go the long way round and slightly delayed. And Senna will be very happy for that, because that allows him, just for probably half a lap, to really concentrate totally on Martin Brundle with a slight breathing space. Now, Martin Brundle should be up to this pressure, because at the beginning of the season he was a bit all over the place. The surprise that he found at the speed of Michael Schumacher and the team seemed to throw him, but all is well now with Martin Brundle. He's driving very well, he's settled now. Senna, this is the fastest part of the circuit, getting a toe. It's in the slipstream. He's looking for the inside at Bridge Corner, but that would be super brave. And we're getting a good view of just how difficult it is to work one's way into an overtaking position. Schumacher right back in the thick of it now. He's back on Senna's tail, or as close as he can reasonably get with this problem with the slipstream. In the meantime, Mansell has put up a new fastest lap. So having got through the traffic, got a clear lap, Mansell's put the hammer down briefly and immediately moved away, and his lead now is nearly 24 seconds. Brundle got himself a little bit of a rest from Senna's attentions, but Senna getting a cleaner line there through the complex. Brundle's a little bit ragged on the line, and Mika Hakkinen has made it up past Jean Alesi and will now be in hot pursuit of Gerhard Berger.
Yes, the Lotus cars are in the 6th and 8th position again, as in France. Johnny Herbert is in the points. He finished 6th last Sunday at Magny-Cours. He's in 6th position at the moment, and his teammate Mika Hakkinen is moving up through the field in 8th position. Gerhard Berger in the 2nd McLaren. You can see the first one, Ayrton Senna, in 4th position there, and Gerhard Berger is in 7th place. He's being beaten by Johnny Herbert, and he's being caught by Mika Hakkinen. Martin Brundle has been looking for the opportunity that was given to him in France, and that he's taken with both hands here at Silverstone for a long time, to be in a really top-flight Formula One Grand Prix car. He never has been in the past for a variety of reasons, because when he drove for Tyrrell, it wasn't the best car, and when he drove for Zakspeed, it was just about the worst car. He drove one race for Williams in 1988, then he drove for the Brabham team in 1989 and 91, and it was by no means a race-winning car. So now that he is in a car with real potential, he is really showing what he's made of. And so there is Patrese, and you can see as they're fighting their way through the traffic, Patrese is only just ahead of this meteoric battle for 3rd position. Indeed, Brundle, Senna and Schumacher, and there they are catching him. Him being Riccardo Patrese. There is the Italian going through on the inside and taking Maurizio Gugelmin's Jordan Yamaha. Ayrton Senna staying cool as ever, keeping in touch with Martin Brundle in 3rd position. Now look for the battle as there goes Brundle, Senna, Schumacher under the bridge into Bridge Corner to complete another lap, which will be their 24th. So we are well over 1/3 distance already, and the retirements are nil.
And this is what Senna wants. Hold up for Brundle. And getting very close indeed as Brundle gets held up, and it's Maurizio Gugelmin who is perpetrating the problem for Ayrton Senna, for Martin Brundle. but Senna still not really close enough as Patrese goes through. Whoops, and they're supposed to be friends, Gugelmin and Senna won't be pleased with that, because that has put him under threat now. You see the problem with Schumacher, and for Senna, one little false move from a back marker, and you come under threat from behind, and it's all hot stuff now. Patrese going through with a queue of cars in front. There's a big gaggle of traffic on the circuits, and Senna will be, and Schumacher will be licking their lips metaphorically, trying to get, waiting to get amongst this battle as it being their possible chance as one of the Tyrrells goes into the pits. Michael Schumacher, the back of that group. Brundle gets the power down well out of the Vale complex. Mansell put in a couple of really quick laps to extend his lead again and get well away. But this is where the race is. Senna and the Benetton sandwich.
And two cars in the pits, Pierluigi Martini's Dallara and Andrea De Cesaris's Tyrrell are in the pit lane, but there's tremendous excitement, and this is it as they go through to complete their 24th lap. They being Brundle, Senna, Schumacher. Third, fourth, fifth. Riccardo Patrese is 2.5 seconds ahead of Martin Brundle, just out of the picture. There he is. You see him as they go through the complex at Beckett's, now into the left-hander at Chapel, now down to the Hangar Straight. And you can see that the Benetton seems to be not a mile an hour slower than the McLaren, although Senna's got this aerodynamic problem of trying to get past.
But you see, Senna's line is so much better through the Beckett's complex than Martin Brundle's. He can straighten it out, he seems to straighten it out, which is what the line is all about. Through that complex, Senna still snapping away at Brundle's heels. And Riccardo Patrese, who has fallen back very close to the clutches as Eric Comas goes into the pits. So tyre changes starting. But Riccardo Patrese has lost an enormous amount of ground to Mansell in the traffic and to this group behind, as Senna now right on Brundle's tail. Still there's nothing you can do. There was Patrese, not very far in front. And Brundle not panicking, he's keeping very cool because it's not easy with this sort of pressure from behind, but he's sticking to his line, making no mistakes, and that's what he needs to keep doing, and it's not easy because he's got a long race to go yet.
And they're catching Riccardo Patrese, not very quickly, but they are nevertheless closing up on the second-placed Williams. We're on lap 26 now, out of 59, and there is Grillard, followed by JJ Leto. That number 6 is Riccardo Patrese, second place. Now let's see how close to the Williams Renault are the two Benettons of Brundle and Schumacher, sandwiching as he goes under the bridge, Ayrton Senna, and it's pretty close. Senna attacking, and Schumacher watching very carefully. Senna mindful of the fact that the man behind him is the man who took him off on the first lap of the French Grand Prix last Sunday. So Senna will be watching the front and watching the rear equally carefully. Into Bridge Corner, right-hander, 160 miles an hour. Brundle third, Senna fourth, Schumacher fifth, and Senna right onto the gearbox now, Brundle's Benetton.
I'm sure that's where he's going to do it, after Bridge. He's trying to lull Brundle into a sense of false security, I'm sure, and he's going to dive inside him going into Priory. And in fact, as Patrese goes through, just keeping his distance, keeping himself just comfortably in front of this roaring battle behind. One of the problems that Senna has got, and Senna, he really, it's extraordinary. Brundle really is making a mess of the Beckett's complex every lap. Senna getting very close to him, and in fact Senna almost had to lift off then because Brundle was holding him to get onto traffic, and Senna is looking like he's going to have a go. And Senna around the outside of Martin Brundle, if he can hold wheels, hold station there, but he can't. Well driven Martin Brundle, he didn't lose his nerve, he's held on. But the problem Senna has got is that the Benettons have been very quick on the straight with their latest Ford engine in the car. They were quick in qualifying and practice, and it's quite clear the engine is very powerful because Senna is not a match for the Benetton on the straight. Now, it's here where I think that Senna will have his real go, but he's trying to set Martin Brundle up, and that is JJ Leto, I think, in front. And he's experienced enough not to hold this battle up, or so certainly Martin Brundle hopes.
So Brundle has a look at JJ Leto, knowing that he's got Ayrton Senna behind him. We're on lap 28. We haven't lost sight of Mansell. We're concentrating on this tremendous battle for third, fourth and fifth positions. Nigel Mansell, I reassure you that of those of you who are watching and thinking about him, is leading the race by 38 seconds. Now, this is where Brundle's got to get past JJ Leto as they go into Stowe.
And Senna was sufficiently held up then by Brundle that Schumacher got right into touch. I thought Schumacher was maybe going in touch to have a go on the straight. And I wonder if Brundle, in fact, were maligning him. Maybe he's got a handling problem through the complex, because he does seem to be massively slower than Ayrton Senna through that complex. And Senna again is close, and he'll pick up the toe on the straight. But at the same time, Brundle will be getting a toe from the Delara ahead of him. Now, this is where Senna through Bridge Corner. Brundle correctly covering his inside line, Senna right behind him. Leto also correctly moved out of the way. Schumacher jumps him, he's through. And we've got Griard in front, and Griard, who had a most undistinguished French Grand Prix. He managed to get involved in a number of incidents, which Murray actually has a list at his head, and when we get a moment's respite, he may well run off that list, because Griard managed to make himself unpopular with probably fully half the field in France.
Yes, the man in the black hat at Magny-Cours in more ways than one. Black crash hat, and got himself a very bad reputation. More of that maybe later, but this is the interest. And what an interest, with Mansell leading by 38 seconds. Patrese is now 5 seconds ahead of Martin Brundle, because the battling Brundle, Senna and Schumacher are holding each other up in their efforts to gain places and Martin Brundle to retain it. And that's given Riccardo Patrese a clear circuit breather to get ahead a bit, as again Senna attacks, and Nigel Mansell has still got the fastest lap of the race, and they're but as you watch this battle for third position in the pit lane with a report, Jonathan Palmer.
Yes, Murray, Nigel Mansell is going to receive the in sign on his pit board the next time he comes by. He's got a 38-second lead, and that'll be very comfortable to make a pit stop for tyres, I think.
Yes, well, we heard Nigel talking to Steve Ryder just before the race began and saying that they were discussing even then whether or not to make a tyre stop, and he's obviously decided to do what he has done before this season, come in with a very substantial lead, make sure that the rubber is right for the second half of the race, because we are now on lap 30 in this 59-lap race, take on a new set of Goodyears and emerge from the pit lane almost certainly in the lead as Gerhard Berger goes in. Gerhard Berger going in for tyres, and he is down the order at the present moment, because Berger was in 7th position as he went through. So now I can see Mansell. I'm looking across the track and you're looking at Gerhard Berger, and he's coming up to the McLaren pit, and now straight out of it as Mansell is coming into the pit lane. I'm watching him now, and so are you. Nigel Mansell leading by 39 seconds, completing his 29th lap in this 59-lap race. Can come in and he can take all the time in the world to change his tyres, because it should take about 8 seconds for a good stop. He more or less coasts in Now, I say again, with a lead like he's got, what they need to make sure is those wheel nuts are done up tight, because he's had problems with them in the past. Nigel Mansell emerges still in the lead with after an 11.7 seconds stop, and he will go through before Riccardo Patrese passes the start and finish line. He's doing it now.
He's just out. Patrese is not far behind, but that was a very, very well judged pit stop by both Nigel Mansell and the Williams team. They took their time. They've rushed them in the past. They've learned from that. There was no hurry, and a very conservative, sensible stop. And he waited also, probably not to the best use of the tyres, but back for the battle raging, and trouble there for Ayrton Senna because he's held up behind a back marker. Breathing space for Martin Brundle and a huge gaggle of cars. But he's managed to jump Schumacher, which would be Senna's main worry in that little melee of cars. Now, will Senna stop for tyres? Berger has been in, and the tyres, the covers on the tyres, presumably for Senna's car, in the McLaren pit, because Berger's already changed. They've just come off. We think that Ayrton Senna is probably coming in on this lap. And it's interesting because we're at half distance, we're past half distance of this race, and yet people are going in for tyres, so it's a late decision. People are maybe making their decision during the course of the race. And Senna now, is he going in? Now comes to the end of the complex. No, it looks as if Senna's staying out for another lap. So Ayrton Senna, he's got tyres ready for him in the pits, but he's staying.
Now, it has just struck me, and it is nothing more than a thought, that whilst Ayrton Senna, as Gerhard Berger has already done, will come in for new tyres, it is not necessary. And Johnny Herbert retiring. Johnny Herbert coming into the pit lane to retire in the Lotus, coasting to a standstill. And I was just saying that it's not inconceivable that the Benettons, which are lighter, will be able to go through without making a tyre stop. I have no prior knowledge that makes me think that. It's just a guess, but it's more than possible. And now it is still Martin Brundle third, Ayrton Senna in fourth position. You're watching Michael Schumacher, who is fifth. Up into sixth place comes the second Lotus of Mika Häkkinen.
I suspect that Senna, who will be doing a lot of tactical thinking right now, will be asking for the team and Goodyear to look at the tyres of Gerhard Berger's car, and will be taking a decision as to whether he needs to stop once he has got a properly considered report on the state of Gerhard's tyre, the tyres of his car, because that will influence whether he needs to stop or not. I suspect he feels that the Benettons, if they haven't gone now, are going to stay out, and he won't want to give away his place. And Nigel Mansell, who's gone through again with a new lap record, fastest lap for Mansell. Still, though, by no means going flat out, because he's only as quick as he was in the warm-up. In fact, he's not quite as quick as he was in the warm-up this morning, and that was on very full tanks. And we've just heard from the pits that Patrese is being hung a signal saying Mansell tyres okay, and that is almost certainly why Senna are staying out. They don't need necessarily to hang a board. They could have been doing it over the radio, as I suggested they would be, discussing the state, because one car from each team has gone in, and they know, having looked at Mansell's tyres, that by that they mean that Mansell's tyres could have done the second half of the race just fine. He could afford the luxury of a pit stop. It was a wise precaution in his case. They now know, for Patrese's benefit, that this is how teamwork works in this stage. There's not a lot of it, but in this instance, that is good information for Riccardo Patrese. So there he is, and that's important because his second place is by no means secure. I'm sure that Ayrton Senna will have received the same message, and we may well find out that they put the blankets back on his tyres.
Yeah, as the race car comes in, the Jaguar car with its lights flashing, there's his pit board. Now, the race order on this, the 33rd lap, with Nigel Mansell leading, is Riccardo Patrese is about 9 seconds behind Nigel Mansell. That is Patrese. Martin Brundle is in third position. In fourth position, it's Schumacher, who's just gone into the pits, and you can see the Benetton now, and he's going to lose his fifth position almost certainly to Mika Häkkinen. Well, not necessarily, because that's a super stop, and Schumacher is sprinting down the pit lane into his 34th lap, and Mansell on new tyres leads by 11 seconds, and a Lacey is in now.
And that is a Lacey, and he's away again, under 7 seconds for the Ferrari stop. It's a little bit panicky, but they certainly got him away quickly. So suddenly a spate of pit stops, and I suspect Senna will have the same information that Riccardo Patrese got. Of course, remember, Patrese won't, the Williams drivers don't have to push so hard. And Jonathan has Johnny Herbert retired, of course, down in the pits.
Johnny, that was an absolutely fantastic sixth place you were running in. The Lotus clearly going well and you making brilliant use of it. But what happened?
Well, as you say, the car, we're making progress all the time. We've got ahead of the Ferraris. I think we got one of the McLarens sorted out, and it was a shame, really. The car was handling fantastic, but it stuck in gear in the end, so it's a bit of a shame.
Very hard luck, Johnny. Many thanks.
And what a shame, but that is the lot of a racing driver, in that when it's a mechanical failure, you can't be disappointed with that. When you've done a good job, you have to take solace from that, and certainly Johnny Herbert did a very good job today. Now, Senna is in fourth place, but Mika Häkkinen moves up to fifth place, some 16 seconds behind Ayrton Senna because of Schumacher's pit stop, and Senna still harrowing Martin Brundle there. Brundle defending excellently, handling the pressure extremely well.
And bang goes my theory about the Benettons not stopping for tyres as Martin Brundle comes in to do so, as Schumacher comes in to do so, and you watch now Martin Brundle pursued now only by Ayrton Senna closely. Schumacher, of course, having gone in for tyres. We're on lap 35 in this 59-lap race. Mansell is the lap record holder. Lap 32, 1 minute 24.9, and he's leading Riccardo Patrese now by 12.5 seconds. Mansell on new tyres, Patrese on old ones. Mansell is now into his 36th lap, and Senna can still not get past the Benetton of Martin Brundle third.
Yes, and I suspect a totally uncharacteristic spate of teamwork going on here, because it's very likely that Martin Brundle will be the beneficiary of similar information to that already given to Patrese that we saw publicly on his pit board, that we presume has been given to Ayrton Senna, and now Brundle will be the beneficiary of the information that the tyres look okay to do the whole race. And you may wonder why Goodyear and the teams don't know this before the race, and the answer is that the conditions change all the time, and these tyres are very sensitive to track temperature, the abrasiveness of the track, depending on how clean it's been washed by rain the night before. Remember, we had rain, a lot of rain yesterday. Senna still fighting for that third place. Harrowing, and incidentally, just to prove that the tyre conditions are definitely all right, Riccardo Patrese has just done his two quickest laps of the race in the last 2 laps, and the second of the two was even quicker, so Patrese is managing to find additional speed despite the fact that his tyres are getting older, and that shows they're holding up well, so the information from the pits is good.
Lap 37 out of 59, race order, Nigel Mansell, fastest lap of the race, and he is leading very comfortably now. Riccardo Patrese by 13 seconds. Brundle is third, 6 seconds behind Patrese. Senna is just behind Brundle, and there is the Brazilian. In fifth position, it is Mika Häkkinen in the Lotus, and in sixth position is Schumacher, who has gone through to the pits for tyres already. Seventh is Gerhard Berger, who has stopped for tyres. Eighth is Alesi, who has stopped. Ninth is the second Ferrari of Capelli. And in 10th position, it is the Italian veteran Michele Alboreto in the footwork. 11th is Comas in the Ligier. 12th is Thierry Boutsen in the second Ligier. Then it's 13th Suzuki, 14th Modena, 15th Griar, 16th Leto, 17th Gugelmin, 18th Morbidelli, 19th Tarquini, and Damon Hill is still running in 20th place, 2 laps adrift, but he's still running, and this is lap 37. Martin Brundle coming towards us, up towards Abbey, followed by Ayrton Senna into bridge.
And certainly the tyres are working well because Martin Brundle has just done his own fastest lap of the race. And into the pits goes Ivan Capelli in his Ferrari. And that looks a bit more than a tyre stop. He's parked rather skew-whiffly for a routine tyre stop, but they would always change the tyres anyway. Maybe he's got something else to say. Yes, he has. Oops. No, he was in reverse rather than the forward gear, it would appear. How very odd. Or maybe he's got some sort of a gearbox problem. But that didn't look to be a completely routine pit stop. Anyway, now back markers and traffic for Martin Brundle. Problems for him as Senna comes right into the attack, but Senna lost time there with a little bit of over-eagerness, possibly. Eric Comas in the blue Ligier immediately in front. And that looks like Martini ahead of him, and they're battling away and not looking at what's going on behind, and Senna will be looking for a way through. And it's all go, but Brundle keeps his cool. This is a tremendous drive by Martin Brundle because he's under maximum pressure. The only relief he has is he knows that his Benetton is quicker in a straight line than the McLaren of Ayrton Senna, and that certainly gives you a little bit of security when driving. But all this traffic noise, back markers, and now Mansell has speeded up. There's Damon Hill ahead of the group now. We see the lap, Nigel Mansell on a new fastest lap, and he's just popping in the odd quick one. Otherwise, he's having a very easy run and keep his concentration up, because he certainly could go quicker than that, but I don't think Martin Brundle can go any quicker than he's going, and Ayrton Senna is dictated about how quickly he can go by the speed of Martin Brundle in front of him.
Now, I have in the box with me the great 3-times world champion Jackie Stewart. Now, let's keep an eye on this battle, Jackie, but it looks as though you're in danger of losing your honour of the highest number of wins by a British driver, 27 to Nigel Mansell.
Murray, I'm absolutely sure of it. Nigel's got the race totally by the scruff of the neck. He's controlling the pace that he wants to drive at. He's driving a very well calculated race. I take my hat off to him. If he does succeed today in getting 28 victories, I'll be the loudest applauder up here in the tower. I think he's done a very good job, and I congratulate him. So far, I am a racing driver, and as James and you know, you can never think of things like that until they actually happen. So we've still got a bit of racing to do yet, but he is driving with a great masterly condition between that Williams team and his driving talent. It's a great piece of teamwork.
Well, thank you, Jackie. I know that Nigel Mansell, that we're looking at in the lead now on lap 40 out of 59, will look at the recording of this race when it's over, and I know that it will give him a tremendous charge to hear such a generous testimonial from the man he looks as though he is going to beat. But I emphasise that it's a long way yet, as Jackie did.
Yes, generous words indeed from Jackie Stewart, and that Mansell has done everything he can today to win this race, and will continue to do so. Now it's up to the reliability of the car, but we have no reason to doubt that. Williams has, and there is a bit of unreliability from Maurizio Gugelmin in his Jordan Yamaha, and that looked like a pretty terminal explosion at the back of the car of mechanical nature. Probably one suspects the engine, but can't be sure. Back to the battle of the race. Senna challenging Brundle. Still quieten down for a moment. Of course, it goes quiet when they haven't got traffic, and it'll be a bit of relief for Martin Brundle.
Now, in a situation where Nigel's main problem at the moment is the continued reliability of his Williams Renault, I'm going to ask Jonathan Palmer down in the pit lane to do a bit of legwork, go to Williams and see if they are quite happy. They're watching the telemetry, of course. The Renault engineers are seeing exactly how his engine's performing, and I think actually he's ready to talk to us now.
Well, I've just spoken to the Goodyear tyre engineers down here, and he tells me, in fact, that the wear they've seen on those cars that have stopped has been a little bit more than they expected. But the cars that have come in, Berger, Schumacher and Mansell, are the drivers who are slightly harder on tyres than their respective teammates, so it's probable that the other halves won't need to come in for tyres after all.
Thank you, Jonathan, and would you now please go to the Williams pit and see if they are happy with the way everything is going, as we watch Martin Brundle and Ayrton Senna, third and fourth, Benetton and McLaren, again exiting Chapel Curve, again going down the Hanger Straight and into Stowe Corner, 100 miles an hour, into the Vale, and the race order is Mansell now leading Patrese by 20 seconds, Mansell on new tyres, Patrese still on the ones that he started the race with. Brundle is 7 seconds behind Patrese and just ahead of Senna, as you can see. Mika Häkkinen in 5th position. In 6th position after his tyre stop is Gerhard Berger, who has displaced Michael Schumacher, who is in 7th place ahead of the Ferrari 8th of Jean Alesi. And in 9th position behind Alesi, Alboreto in the footwork. 10th is Comas, 11th is Capelli in the 2nd Ferrari, and 12th in the 2nd Ligier is the Belgian ex-Williams driver Thierry Boutsen. But what an absolutely stunning race Martin Brundle is driving. So, of course, is Ayrton Senna, but I remind you that Ayrton Senna is 3 times world champion, and he, in his career, has won 34 races. Martin has yet to win one, and he's staying ahead of Senna.
Well, certainly Brundle and Senna's tyres are working all right, because they have both put in their fastest personal laps of the race just this very lap, or as they last crossed the line. Senna relentlessly pressing on, and Nigel Mansell now with a lead of 22 seconds over Riccardo Patrese, and I think that probably he'd be well advised to keep, of course not pushing the car, not stressing it, but although half a second a lap doesn't sound like a lot, this is a replay now at Priory, Schumacher and Stefano Modena in his Jordan, and being lapped by... Oh, and Schumacher locked up there. Schumacher seemed to get in a mess. We couldn't really see from that angle. I think Schumacher locked up first, then there was contact, and that is a bit as Schumacher stopped.
And Modena will be livid, because exactly the same thing happened in France after the 2nd start. At the 1st start, Michael Schumacher T-boned Ayrton Senna's McLaren, and at the 2nd start, after 18 laps of the French Grand Prix, Schumacher made contact and went out of the race with Stefano Modena, who managed to carry on in his Jordan Yamaha. But to say that the Italian was not best pleased would be a masterpiece of understatement. So Michael Schumacher tried to thrust his way unsuccessfully there past Stefano Modena. We're on lap 43 now. The race is reeling in, and Jonathan has been to the Williams pit.
Well, the atmosphere is pretty tense down here, as you might imagine, in the Williams pit, Murray. They're all looking at the monitors, desperately hoping nothing's going to go wrong to interfere with this copybook performance. At the moment, they are happy, but it's a very much at the moment proviso on that.
So there is Frank and the team sitting behind him, watching the monitor, listening to the headphone now. Frank will be listening to driver conversations there. You see he's turned away from the monitor. He's concentrating hard to pick it up, because there's a lot of sound and interference going on, and I think maybe they may be advising Martin Mansell to keep extending his lead. As I say, if he drops half a second lap off full pace, that's plenty to protect the car, although it doesn't sound very much mechanically, and to make sure of no mistakes, because it would be nice to have enough of a lead that if, for instance, one got a puncture, which is about the worst non-terminal thing can happen to you. And there's Brundle's board, place 3 minus 6 seconds on Riccardo Patrese. But Mansell could have a lead if he wishes, that could give him maybe half a lap on a flat tyre even to get round the pits and change it and get out and still win the race. And one might as well have it if one can have it at no cost, and by no cost I mean no risk to the car and its reliability. So, Senna. Now, Senna, this has been a very hard race for Senna, following Michele Alboreto, who's having such a good season in the footwork. And I think Senna looks as if he didn't get through then. No, Alboreto held his line. A little rest for Brundle, but the man who really will need a rest more than any is Ayrton Senna, because remember, following is the hardest work of all in this business, certainly physically. Leading and being pressured, of course, is probably harder on the mental pressure, but physically, you're driving in the slipstream, the car, you get more buffeting anyway because of the turbulence of the car in front, and your car has less grip in the corners because of that hole in the air. And, in every way, it is more difficult. Your line of sight is impaired, and that looks like a Lazy who has parked his Ferrari. It looks as if it's been routinely parked, although not a routine he'd like to go through again, because it means he's out of the race very much. Leads in the steering wheel, as the rules now dictate. You mustn't make off with your steering wheel because it makes the car awfully difficult to deal with for the marshals. Senna using all the road at Copse Corner, having to pull back that little bit of ground he lost when they were lapping. And back to Riccardo Patrese, who is only 8 seconds in front of Martin Brundle. And I have considerable sympathy for Riccardo Patrese being shackled by the Williams team, no matter how they may have phrased it. They claim it wasn't really orders, but being asked not to do it, not to put the team at risk in any way when Mansell's trying to overtake him, basically means you've got to let him go through, and that's certainly how Patrese took it. And we think that that is a shame for racing, because this is a one-team demonstration for the World Championship, and I'm sure it's a shame also for Nigel Mansell, because he certainly would beat Patrese easily, and it would be nice for him to actually go out and win it.
And it's getting pretty interesting in the Constructors' Championship at the present moment, because with Nigel Mansell that tremendous amount ahead of his teammate Riccardo Patrese, there's no problem for Williams in terms of leading the Constructors' Championship. But Benetton, in the form of Martin Brundle, is in 3rd position. McLaren is in 4th place with Ayrton Senna at the wheel. In 5th position, it's Mika Häkkinen, and in 6th place, it's Gerhard Berger. So both the McLarens, and they're only 1 point ahead of Benetton in the Constructors' Championship, are in the top 6. But Michael Schumacher, who had that touch with Stefano Modena, is in 7th place, and he's catching Gerhard Berger. There's Tarquini, who's going to be lapped again, as down the hangar straight comes Martin Brundle and Ayrton Senna, who have pulled away from Michele Alboreto. They've lapped him. Alboreto is in 8th position, and Nigel Mansell has lapped everybody up to Schumacher, who is in 7th place, and Nigel Mansell is on his 46th lap out of 59. And Stefano Modena, oh dear, it looks like another awful race for Eddie Jordan's team, because that's Stefano Modena coming in to retire to join John Lacey, Maurizio Gugelmin, his teammate, so both the Jordans are out. Johnny Herbert out, of course, and Riccardo Patrese holding that 2nd place behind Nigel Mansell and ahead of Brundle.
Yes, and Modena's Jordan, really, it looked like the accident damage or the contact damage from the incident with Schumacher was responsible for that. The radiators looked to be damaged, and that would lead to a pretty quick engine blow up. So Mansell, well, he is extending his lead. He's now 27 seconds in front of Patrese, but not going as quick as he could. Of course, he's got to be careful in the traffic. He must not get tripped up. That would be the most unfortunate way to have any problems in the race. But I believe he might as well have as much lead as possible, and that's Mika Häkkinen. And Mika Häkkinen in 5th place with Gerhard Berger breathing right down his neck, and Schumacher right behind. And remember that Berger and Schumacher have both changed tyres. they're on fresher rubber, and that should be an advantage to them. And breathing down Häkkinen's neck on straight, and Berger having a look. Oh, and Häkkinen says firmly no. And very quickly through Stowe. Mika Häkkinen, who's winning year in Formula 3, was every bit as good and as impressive as Ayrton Senna's. And he put some space between his two rather more senior pursuers.
Lap 48, no change at the front, and by the way, Damon Hill is still running in the Brabham Judd. He is in 18th place, and here's one of the great drivers of the future, I am sure, Mika Häkkinen in the Lotus, 23 years old, from Helsinki, keeping that 5th place ahead of a very hard-trying Gerhard Berger, with behind them Michael Schumacher trying to displace the McLaren and get the second Benetton back in the points again. That's going to be very important, as I said earlier on, for the Constructors' Championship. Just 1 point between Benetton and McLaren. And there's the McLaren of Berger. There is the Benetton of Schumacher, 6th and 7th, battling for that place.
Yes, and Berger's the man with the short straw here, because he's trying to attack Häkkinen in the front, but at the moment, right now, he's actually more interested in what's going on behind him, because Schumacher was very close to him then, and putting his place under threat. And that is the classic sandwich, and believe me, it's an uncomfortable place to sit. Or to be the meat therein. At the moment, I think Häkkinen is probably grateful for the attentions of Schumacher, because that is distracting Berger. Ayrton Senna when they cross the line. I'll give you the actual gap, but Schumacher booting it, having a little probe, not an attempt to pass there, not even a look, but just maybe feeling things out as they accelerate away over the line. And some 24 seconds behind Ayrton Senna, and his ongoing fight with Martin Brundle still in absolutely close attention to Martin Brundle.
Mika Häkkinen having already finished 5th in the French Grand Prix and 6th in Mexico. And in Mexico, he was in the older Lotus. And look, it couldn't be closer now. And Berger's getting ready to try and dart through and take the position, and this time he times it beautifully. Up into 5th position, displacing Mika Häkkinen, who's now got a problem with Michael Schumacher, who's going for it. And of course, Häkkinen will have been pushed slightly offline there. He will have lost a little bit of momentum. And as you see from the caption, there's 10 laps to go for Nigel Mansell, between him and his 7th victory of 1992 to increase it. And Schumacher goes for it, and he's through. The Benetton is up into the points again. So both the Benettons are in the points. Brundle 3rd, Schumacher 6th.
Before I had a chance to say it, the superior power of the works Cosworth engine, Ford Cosworth engine in Schumacher's car, there's always going to be too much for Mika Häkkinen once he hadn't got the protection of Berger's McLaren behind him. And to his credit, Häkkinen did not try and block Berger in any way. He tried to brazen it out under braking, but he did hand the inside line to Gerhard Berger, and Berger is too experienced not to be able to win the corner from the advantageous inside position. And now we return to Martin Brundle and Ayrton Senna's battle, and well, it looks as if we haven't left them, because the distance is just the same between them. Senna almost tied to the back of Brundle's car. They've got a back marker in front, and Andrea de Cesaris, who has picked a rather dodgy spot to park, but the traffic wardens, the marshals, we should call them, have left the rescue and clearly stalled the engine, so that's end of race for Andrea de Cesaris. Receiving outside assistance automatically excludes him from any further business. Martin Brundle, little breathing space on Senna this time.
You saw Tarquini there in the Fond Metal about to be lapped again. And he's going to be lapped by the Benetton of Martin Brundle, second place, and the McLaren of Ayrton Senna. And if my somewhat suspect mental arithmetic is right, the Benetton and the McLaren teams are both on a potential 5 points at the moment. So, in order to get to that second place in the Constructors' Championship, Jean Alesi needs to get past Gerhard Berger, who is in 5th position, and Martin Brundle needs to resist, as he has been doing for the whole race, the non-stop attack of Ayrton Senna. And Jean Alesi is out of the race, as is Stefano Modena, as is Andrea De Cesaris, as is Maurizio Gugelmin and Johnny Herbert. There are still 20 runners left, although the last one is some 6 laps behind. And Damon Hill in the Brabham is still running in 18th place and looks as though he's going to finish his first Grand Prix. His mother Betty is here to see him, and she was, of course, with his father Graham when Graham announced his retirement from racing in 1975 here at Silverstone. And here at Silverstone, Senna, who has been following in the wheel tracks of Brundle the whole race, can still do nothing about the Englishman, who is beating him here in Formula 1, as he did in Formula 3.
Yes, to be fair, not as often as Senna beat him. They battled through a long campaign, but in the second half of the season, Martin Brundle got on terms. Senna had beaten him pretty much all the way up to half distance, and Martin won a few races. And up front, Nigel Mansell has ignored my advice, but I won't hold that against him, because he knows what he's doing, that is for sure. And he has backed right off and is matching his pace now to Riccardo Patrese behind him, who's himself got an 8-second lead over Martin Brundle's battle. And there is the board, and there is Mansell, and he's got something like a 27-second lead, which is adequate. Here, Luigi Martini getting out of Mansell's way, but Mansell has decided to take it very easy, go very easy on the car, and one certainly wouldn't dream of criticising him for taking that approach with less than 10 laps to go. And his lead is in fact 28.5 seconds. And having, just after I'd said that, the last lap he did, he put in a slightly quicker one. So he's still going up and down with the lap times, and certainly that's also helps keep the interest, because this really has been a very, very easy race for Nigel Mansell. The crowd in the background, they are really loving this. Union Jacks abound all around the circuit. They've been coming in their droves ever since Thursday, and even before, some of them camping here. And Mansell is giving them what they came to see.
Indeed he is. Smoothly, remorselessly and effortlessly, he's making his way round his 53rd lap in this 59-lap race, with a 29-second lead over Riccardo Patrese, and he completes the lap. And Senna stops. Ayrton Senna is retiring from yet another Grand Prix. 5 times already this year he has failed to finish, and this makes the 6th time that the Brazilian 3 times world champion goes out of the race. Well, that's blown his world championship chances. I see no chance whatsoever of Ayrton Senna becoming world champion, even if Nigel Mansell had problem after problem for the rest of the season. Out goes Senna at Club Corner in the McLaren Honda, and this is the exact point where Nigel Mansell stopped last year and gave Ayrton Senna a lift back to the pits on the side part of his Williams Renault, and that was oh, look at that banner just to the right. Only nuts come from Brazil, Nigel Mansell, it says. Well, there's a lot of people that won't like that, but Nigel Mansell won't mind. Ayrton Senna won't be too pleased about it, nor with the fact that for the 6th time this year he is out of a Grand Prix, and this is the 9th race. He's only finished 3 times, a win at Monaco and 2 third places in South Africa and San Marino. And Nigel Mansell completes another lap. He completes his 54th lap to go. 55, 56, 57, 58 and 59. The man who has dominated the race with the fastest lap. There it is.
Yes, and at last a show from Nigel Mansell, and he's really put it down, and I think he's now probably just going to give the lap record a bit of a shake-up. I don't suppose even then he will go at 10 tenths. He'll probably take it up to 8 or 9 tenths speed, which will still knock it down. The lap record was, he's knocked some 3 seconds off it already. And we have Jonathan in the McLaren pit with news of Ayrton Senna's demise.
Well, yes, James, Ayrton did in fact radio back to the McLaren pit, but most of what he said we can't repeat here. But I think the bottom line of it is that something broke, and it would seem to be the gearbox. He is absolutely mortified.
Yes, and there he is, and what a sad season for Ayrton Senna. It's people win championships, they lose them, but this is a sad way for him to lose it, handicapped by a machine in which he really can't put up any sort of a defence against the phenomenal performance of the Williams-Renaults, who have really just taken, decimated the opposition, and including the great Ayrton Senna.
Well, there are rumours in the pit lane that Ayrton Senna is talking to Frank Williams about driving for the Williams-Renault team in 1993. If they have any substance at all, Red 5, Nigel Mansell is doing the best he possibly can to scotch any likelihood of that happening. Because to come home with yet another win and another 10 points lead over Ayrton Senna, who only has 18 points this season, compared with Nigel Mansell's 66, potentially about to be 76, that many people would think would clinch the argument for him to stay with Williams-Renault. But the decision is Frank Williams, not anybody else's. And Senna watches Nigel Mansell go by. Maybe he's getting ready to thumb a lift back to the pits as he did last year. And that would be ironic, as Mansell now is on his 56th lap coming through to complete it. He has only got 3 more racing laps of this 3.2-mile circuit at Silverstone to complete. And Mansell said time and time again before this race started, Silverstone is the most difficult circuit on the Grand Prix series. It is a manned circuit. You have to attack every corner. I commit myself totally to every corner in the Williams-Renault. I love Silverstone, and I am glad to say that the crowd appears to love me. Well, they have certainly got their money's worth so far today at Silverstone, because Nigel Mansell is on his way to winning his 4th British Grand Prix, 1986, 1987, that memorable Grand Prix at Silverstone when he shot through on the inside of Nelson Piquet in the Williams Honda at Stowe Corner to win. Last year, a superb victory, 2 second places, and here is Ayrton Senna. Now, you'll see Nigel Mansell in a minute. There he is. Senna sees him again, and Senna knows what the score is, and he knows that the score is 2 laps to go at the end of this one, with an enormous lead now back again to 37 seconds over his teammate Riccardo Patrese.
Yes, well, there's one person out there who will be very glad that Senna is out of the race, not for any personal animosity, but purely because that's Martin Brundle, and he will be well relieved to be without that pressure, because it's made it a very hard race for him, and he'll be enjoying now being able to take it relatively easy over the closing laps and not have to face a last-ditch challenge, which he would certainly have been planning to have to parry from Ayrton Senna. Oh, and a new fastest lap for Nigel Mansell, and he's having a bit of fun with the lap record. I don't wonder whether Frank Williams totally approves of that, but I'm sure he doesn't mind, because, as I said before, that is a time that shouldn't be too difficult for Nigel Mansell to do. He's probably only at 8 or maximum 9/10, still keeping plenty in reserve. Such is the superiority of his Williams.
And I'm happy to tell you that back into 6th position and into the points goes Mika Häkkinen. You watch Nigel Mansell on his 58th and last lap but one. And you saw Mika Häkkinen go through, and the crowd is winding itself up now. Mansell leads Patrese by 36 seconds. Brundle is a long way behind Patrese. Berger is 4th. Schumacher is 5th. Häkkinen is 6th. Alboreto is 7th. And Eric Comas is in 8th position as Mansell comes up to start what will surely be his victorious lap at Silverstone for the 4th time. So he's coming up now to catch and to lap Damon Hill, his fellow Englishman, who is going to finish, and Mansell is on his last lap as I speak to you now.
And Nigel Mansell on his last lap now, and this will be, assuming he makes it round, we have to assume that now, his 28th Grand Prix win, which will surpass the record of the great Jackie Stewart, who was, in my opinion, one of, if not the greatest driver of all time. But don't be fooled, it's not a full comparison. Jackie also won 3 World Championships already in his 27 wins in many fewer races, but this is a fantastic performance by Nigel Mansell. He has persevered for the years, and he is now the leading British driver in terms of Grand Prix wins of all time. And what a place to do it for him. Silverstone, he's done it magnificently and in great style. But at the end of the day, this has been another very easy win for Mansell. He's managed it well, he's done everything he has to do. But the car has carried him to a great success with the fading challenge from his own teammate Riccardo Patrese. And Mansell now set fair to win the World Championship.
They love him and he loves them. And Nigel Mansell comes out of Luffield 1 into Luffield 2, which is the last corner but one. They're breaking ranks, the Union Jacks are waving, and Nigel Mansell wins the 1992 British Grand Prix in terrific style. Hands off the wheel. He sees the opportunity to become the world champion getting greater and greater as he completes that winning lap, and is now on his wind-down lap. Now the tradition, and it's not one I approve of, to be quite honest with you, as Patrese comes through in 2nd place, is for the crowd to go onto the course as they do in Le Mans. And that's very dangerous, of course, because there are drivers a lap or so behind the leaders who are still going at racing speed. But Riccardo Patrese is going to finish in 2nd place to make it the 6th, 1st and 2nd for the Williams team in 1992. Mansell then, there he is, and there is the pit. And coming through is Michael Schumacher, who has passed Gerhard Berger. Michael Schumacher is going to finish behind his teammate. There's Berger, he's blown the Honda V12 engine. Mansell wins, Patrese 2nd. The Benettons of Brundle and Schumacher move ahead of McLaren in the Constructors' Championship as Schumacher dramatically takes Berger on the last corner as the Honda engine in the McLaren blows. And Gerhard Berger finishes in 5th position, and Nigel Mansell, now let's see, as he is followed very, very appropriately by Damon Hill, who has just finished his 1st Grand Prix. Englishman leads on the track there, and Englishman follows in his wheel tracks, and you can see how happy Nigel Mansell is. Now, is Mansell going to stop and offer for the 2nd year in succession a lift to Ayrton Senna? The answer is no, because Ayrton Senna has already gone back. I imagine he wouldn't be too keen on doing it a 2nd year in succession, and he would have thought of that just as I did. Well, the crowd must keep off the course. Doesn't mean to say they'll do it. They are already all over the course in the start and finish position. But Mansell now is savouring this, and justifiably so. I would love to be on the car to pits radio, because Mansell is quite a chatty chap during the race, and there's a constant flow of conversation between him and the pits. And they're seeing now their hero come through. If he gets back to the pitch through this lot, I think he will be doing extremely well. What a wonderful sight. This is Nigel's 7th win of 1992. It raises his World Championship points score to 76. His teammate, Riccardo Patrese, by finishing second, gets another 6 points to give him 40. So Nigel now leads the championship by 36 points after race 9 in this 16-race World Championship Series, with the races in Germany in 2 weeks' time, Hungary, Belgium, Italy, Portugal, Japan, and the marvellous wind-up at the end of the season that everybody loves to go to, the Australian Grand Prix at Adelaide. Will he be world champion when the series reaches Australia? Well, there is still a long way to go. He's got a massive lead, but it is not an unbeatable one, although it's certainly looking more and more like it race by race. Since Thursday morning, the crowds have been pouring into Silverstone. This is what they came to see. This is what they have seen. Now it's going to be very difficult. Get out of it, says the marshal. Clear the car. I just want to give him this Union Jack, mate. Now, this is club corner, and when I tell you that Nigel has still got the run up to Abbey, the Bridge, Priory, Brooklands, the 2 Luffield corners, Woodcote, and the start and finish, I mean, he's just going to have to rev it and try to get through. But I can't see the crowd parting. They're round their idol. They're within touching distance of him. They ought to give a big hand to Damon Hill, that you can see in the centre of your picture in the multicoloured Brabham with its new livery. But now, I say again that the British Grand Prix of 1992, round 9 of the World Championship Series, has been won by Nigel Mansell, 39 seconds ahead of his teammate Riccardo Patrese, with in 3rd position in the Benetton Ford, Martin Brundle, his 3rd place in succession. 3rd in France, 3rd in Britain. Martin Brundle is not on his way back, he's back. And Michael Schumacher in 4th position in the 2nd Benetton Ford. And look at Nigel Mansell now. He'll be boiling hot inside his racing overalls and inside his fireproof underwear, but he won't mind. Gerhard Berger finishes in 5th position, and in 6th position it's Mika Hakkinen. Michele Alboreto 7th, a lap behind. The first 6 all finished after full distance. And if I was Mansell, I would be getting worried. It's the remove the clothing and try and tempt them to run away with it.
If I was Frank Williams, I'd be getting worried about my car too, because I should think that's suffering a lot of damage there, not designed to be climbed all over. And if this is still club corner, they're going to have to helicopter him out. And I think 1 or 2 policemen aren't going to be a lot of help with this crowd. This is really maybe gone a little bit too far.
James, there's a little problem here that I've just thought of. What about scrutineering? The car has to go into scrutineering as a very sad-looking Ayrton Senna walks in his 6th retirement. Well, he manages to find a smile, but a dreadful come-down for the Brazilian after a magnificent World Championship last year. Now to retire from his 6th race and see his rival pull away from him. Give us a chance, says Nigel. Nigel is always traditionally tired, overtired after a race, and they're not giving him a chance. You can understand how they feel, but I would not at all like to be in Nigel Mansell's position at the moment, because crowds can... Oh, thank heavens for that. He's in the van. Well, I have never ever seen anything quite like this. But James, what about scrutineering? Because that car has got to get back to the Parc Fermé in whole condition. I wouldn't be at all surprised if 1 or 2 bits are missing off it. from souvenir hunters, not to say all the pressure that the crowd has exerted on it.
Yes, they certainly won't have done it any good, but at the same time, it was, you know, Nigel has traditionally stopped at Club Corner to chat to the crowd, if you can put it like that there, and he didn't have to do that. But he's been rescued and all is well now. And I don't think the scrutineers are likely to hold it against him. If there are one or two bits missing, they'll just have to do the best they can. But I would suspect that this will be the last year we have a track invasion, because what was, if anything, more serious than, and there is Patrese, and he, I'm sure, is remonstrating about the track invasion that happened just after the start-finish line, as Mansell came over the line, where the crowd broke ranks, and that was serious. The problems that Mansell had at Club Corner are one thing, but for the crowd to come over the track when racing cars are still coming at them at 170 miles an hour, with the drivers not expecting it, is extremely serious, because they race right to the line. If, for example, Senna had still been in the race and he'd been neck and neck right behind Martin Brundle going for the line, as could well have been the case as a race, we could have seen some very nasty consequences, because they were actually on the track at the time and also up at Copse Corner. And I would think that that's the last time the organisers of the British Grand Prix will show a lenient hand to the crowd infiltrating the track. I strongly suspect that in the future they will be tightly controlled and kept behind the fences, and I have to say that the concession that's been given to them, in my opinion, has been abused.
Well, to finish on a high note, I can tell you that Nigel Mansell has, of course, obviously extended his championship lead enormously. He now leads his teammate Riccardo Patrese by 36 points, with Mansell having scored 76 points, Patrese having scored 40. Michael Schumacher is still in third position. Gerhard Berger has moved up from fifth position to fourth. Ayrton Senna has moved down from fourth to fifth, and Martin Brundle has moved up a place from seventh position in the Drivers' Championship to sixth place ahead of Jean Alesi. Williams, of course, with that first and second finish, as you look at Martin Brundle driving in after a magnificent drive, his second successive third place, first in France and now a week later in Silverstone. And his drive with that of his teammate Michael Schumacher, who finished in fourth position, means, as I hypothesised, that the Benetton team have now moved ahead of McLaren by 4 points in the Constructors' Championship, with Ferrari in fourth position, Lotus in fifth place, Martin Brundle in the garage and Parc Ferme area, and the van that is carrying the victorious Nigel Mansell entering the pit lane now. And it will be a very relieved Nigel Mansell who emerges from it, the Silverstone incident vehicle, and if ever I've seen an incident, that was it. Mansell wins, Patrese second, Brundle third, Williams first, Williams second, Renault first, Renault second, Benetton third, Ford engine third. And that's it, there he is. Talking to Charlie Whiting, the FISA scrutineer. Well done, Nigel Mansell. Barry Griffin of Goodyear gives him the traditional winner's hat, and we follow Nigel Mansell into the press office as Riccardo, what a super bloke Riccardo Patrese is, a true Italian gentleman. And he follows Mansell now. Look at the way this just shows how the adrenaline can give you the charge. I've been up and down those steps for the last 2 days, and I can tell you that they take a bit of climbing. Prince Michael of Kent congratulates Nigel Mansell, and so do the crowd. This is what we saw last year, and we're seeing it again. Nigel Mansell's 7th win out of 9 races. tears of joy go down Nigel Mansell's face, and there's a break in my voice, I'll tell you. With, for the second week in succession, the same three men on the podium. Prince Michael, that's it! That's the winner's trophy. And those three men, winner Nigel Mansell, second place Riccardo Patrese, third position Martin Brundle. As Geoffrey Rose, the chairman of the Royal Automobile Club, gives, and that is Mr. Kenneth Clark, who's given Riccardo Patrese his award. And Martin Brundle, so it's two Englishmen on the podium for the second week in succession. Mansell wins, Patrese second, Brundle third, Schumacher fourth, Berger fifth, Hakkinen sixth. And just listen to this. Oh, it's champagne time. Take that, Martin Brundle, and you can take that back. Well, this may seem rather childish, but it is an enormous release of tension. Well, if ever I have seen a look of pure, unadulterated joy, that is it. Mansell, Riccardo Patrese and Martin Brundle go into the press office to give the interviews to the press, and you'll be reading all about it tomorrow. Well, you've seen it here. He stays alone, savouring the moment. Who can blame him? What an incredible sight. Well, there is the car. They got it back all right, and just a quick look. Both the wing mirrors are there. They're the things that can disappear. Well, they haven't got it back. I'm sorry. I assumed, looking at it, it was in the pit lane, but it's a club being guarded by the marshals. Because it's their responsibility to get that car back to the Parc Fermé for Charlie Whiting, the FISA scrutineer, and his colleagues to give it the once-over and make sure it's all legal in terms of things like wing height in particular. But I have absolutely no doubt that it will be. Well, this has truly been a British Grand Prix to remember. The second in succession. A victory for Nigel Mansell, and the fourth in his career. He first won in Britain at Brands Hatch when it was the European Grand Prix, but he's won the actual British Grand Prix now 4 times with 2 second places. When he said before the race last week, Silverstone belongs to me, he was not joking. And Tony Jardine is waiting to talk to the winner, Nigel Mansell.
Nigel, what a win. What support. Silverstone has become Mansellstone. You must be absolutely thrilled.
I'll tell you. Oh, yeah. But use this or not. Yeah, the only thing was I was worried about getting back to the pits, and I mean, I had to slow down so much because they were blocking the track, and actually ran one person over, and he was a very big man. But we were only going a few miles an hour, but oh, he loved it. But anyway, I hope you're not hurt too bad. You got up and sort of picked me up, so many apologies for that. But the car, we just had to leave the car at club. There's no way through.
Were you in any danger there, being mobbed by the crowd?
Well, we were picked up and thrown about, and it was the marshals and police that rescued me. And I mean, what can you say? I've never experienced that in my whole career anywhere in the world, and I mean, they're fantastic, aren't they? It's just incredible.
And now you've beaten Jackie Stewart's record, 28 wins.
Yeah, I mean, that hasn't sunk in yet, and I mean, Jackie being the tremendous man he is and sportsman, when he sent me that telegram, he said he didn't expect me to be a member of the club too long, but I didn't expect to sort of beat it in the next race. And but for me, you know, it's just a credit to the team and Renault, of course, who's given us the machinery to be able to achieve this.
Was that a precautionary tyre stop?
Yeah, we planned it, and you know, and then I was able to then sort of choose the pace that I wanted to sort of go. But I mean, I had a few little moments with coming up with people, and they didn't see me. But other than that, it was a great race.
Nigel, I know you won't be drawn on the World Championship, but with continued success like this, you must have the odd sneaky thought that this could be my year. No,
not really. I've been in the game too long. I've been in the game too long. I'm glad Ricardo is laughing, but I mean, to be so close like I was in '86 and have it robbed with 16 laps to go, I'm not going to count on anything until it's in the bag.
Ricardo, how are you after that big practice crash?
Stiff. I think it was a hard race for me, for sure the hardest race of the season. In fact, I'm quite tired and a bit broken. All my bones are a bit broken. Anyway, I'm really very pleased for Nigel, for myself, and the team, of course, Williams, Renault, another one too. I think here again we did a fantastic job, and I think I don't know what to say. Let's hope that we go on like that, and that is marvelous.
Another great start from you alongside Nigel at the beginning.
Yes, I started well. Nigel maybe had too much wheel spin, I don't know. And then anyway, it was another league today. Congratulations to him.
Martin Brundle back on the rostrum for the second consecutive occasion, equaling your best ever. You must be over the moon.
Yeah, I'm delighted for my family and my supporters over many years. It seemed like old times scrapping with old Senapod around Silverstone. I really enjoyed it. The car was absolutely fantastic. Not a single problem the whole race. Obviously got held up behind, I think Damon it was, and Ayrton just shot through. But then he failed on the same lap anyway, which I can't say anything other than that I smiled quite a lot, I have to say. Then I just cruised to the finish. I took a gamble to run not so much downforce on the car to keep me fast in a straight line. But that meant my tyres went away a little bit faster than Ayrton, so he was pushing me quite hard. But I didn't buckle under the pressure, and I'm very pleased.
But a great day for British drivers, as you said. Damon Hill finishing as well, so that's good for the sport, isn't it?
It is. I don't know where Johnny finished, but I know he was running fairly high up, fairly on. Early on, I saw his name on Michael Schumacher's pit board. But, you know, it's a great day for British motor racing. They're here, they showed up, and they gave us fantastic support, and thank them.
Nigel, back to you finally. A brilliant win here at the British Grand Prix. It's delighted your millions of fans and your family, no doubt. Celebrations tonight?
Celebrations tonight, and if I'm going to dedicate the most historic win, obviously in my career and in the history of Great Britain in Formula One, I dedicate it to the fans out there. They are just unbelievable.
Nigel, thank you. Well done. Ricardo, Martin.
A lovely tribute from the winner to his adoring public, and incidentally a very generous tribute from Riccardo Patrese to Nigel, who was beaten so conclusively. Well, that's Nigel Mansell's car being towed back to the Parc Fermé, and we have seen for the second time in succession at the new look Silverstone a quite magnificent British Grand Prix for Britain, with Mansell winning, Brundle in third position, Johnny Herbert up there in the points until he unfortunately had to retire. And it means to say that Nigel Mansell, although he's not willing to admit that he's looking more and more like the world champion of 1992, he's certainly looking much more like it to everybody here at Silverstone after a superb British Grand Prix.